I'm here with Jamie Leonarder, who's a phenomenist and someone who has been looking into UFOs for many years throughout Australia and around the world. There's a lot of sightings around the world we see from UFOs that people sort of can't explain, and people are trying to find out what's going on. But here in Australia, I don't hear that many. And there's one that's coming up on television over the weekend called Westall that happened in 1966. And I've never heard about this sighting, and supposedly 200 kids saw something that can't be easily explained.
Well, I don't think you're alone in not hearing about this sighting. It's probably the least documented, but the most eyewitness case. And it's a very contradictory and paradoxical case in that regard. It happened at Westall School just outside of Melbourne in 1966. Evidently, 1 to 3 objects were sighted by the school kids at recess, plus the science teacher. These objects landed. All this time later, the story still remains clouded in mystery. Now, being school kids, couldn't they have been easily influenced by each other or something as a bit of a group, delusion of some sort? Here we go again with the mass hysteria. I'm yet to find someone that can actually cite a really good definitive case of mass hysteria. Maybe it's the Lords over there and the sightings at Fatima. I'm not too sure. People would call that a religious miracle. Look, there were teachers that saw this as well, and some of those teachers appear in this astounding documentary. I must make note of the director, writer and editor Rosie Jones. She's been at it for over 4 years to bring this documentary to the small screen. It follows the story of an amateur investigator, Shane Ryan. Now, Shane was always fascinated in the Westall story, didn't know much about it, and when his child was born, it all of a sudden sort of struck him the power that adults have over children, and the power that adults have to dismiss what children say that they have seen. And I think that's the basis for a very beautiful investigation of this case.
Now, what about the weather balloon? There was a weather balloon released around about the time, or shortly before the sighting was going.
I'm so damn sick of the weather balloons out there. Now, weather balloons have a problem landing. They also don't leave circular indentations on the ground because of their weight, and they also don't bring the army in within 20 minutes to burn the surrounding area to remove traces of the weather balloon. The funny thing is, recently in the States, a great documentary has come to light by James Fox, who did the original Out of the Blue. It's called I Know What I Saw. And I think just that phrase says it alone. At some point in this debate, this debacle of ufology, we need to actually look at eyewitness testimony and hand it up. Now, if we do that, we will realise that people can use their common sense, and even young children can differentiate between a weather balloon and something completely strange. As I said to you before, when it gets down to this case, we had a science teacher in there that actually made a statement. It doesn't appear on camera, but he did make a statement because it looks like he was verbal by the intelligence services at the time, and still may be. But he did make a statement saying that this was truly something he could not explain away as a weather balloon.
And what seemed to be the army involvement in the Westall sighting?
Well, that still remains a mystery in itself. There is a military historian that appears in this astounding documentary, and he found it very hard to ascertain where in the hell military units could be prepared and get into this scene within 20 minutes. It's not that close to any surrounding military bases.
Now, most people come to watching a UFO doco from either one side or the other. You rarely get people that are in the middle.
There's no grey area. Yeah. There isn't a grey area.
So what is the best way to view this kind of a documentary?
Try not to put the blinkers on and where you sit. I think what the problem is that science has become a new theology, and the lines have always been divided along religion.